So today we're going to look at evaluating expressions. So first thing that we want to do is be able to define what an algebraic expression is. And all an expression is it something that contains one or more variables. So if you look at any of the sample problems below, expression is just talking about that. It doesn't have an equal sign in it. They're asking me to find the value of something with variables in it. When I'm evaluating it, when I'm trying to find what the value of something is, all I'm doing is substituting, and we'll look at what that looks like. Substitute the variables with their given values, and then follow the order of operations. So basically all you're doing when I'm evaluating an expression, if I'm looking, let's look at number 1 to start with. They're saying that I've got this expression 7x plus 4y, but they're saying, tell me what it equals if I'm going to say x equals 5 and y equals negative 3. So all I'm doing is everywhere I see an x, I'm going to put a 5. I want to emphasize to you, when you're doing this, when I'm plugging in values to an equation, put your parentheses there. Especially because if you're going to eventually throw this into Desmos, if you don't have those parentheses, you're going to get the wrong answer. So get in the habit of writing the parentheses. And now everywhere I see y, I'm going to put a negative 3. And remember, if I have those two numbers sit next to each other, like the 7 and the 5 and the 4 and negative 3, that means I'm multiplying them. So this is going to turn into 7 times 5, which is 35. This is going to be 4 times negative 3, which is negative 12. Something that we need to get in the habit of is if I have this, 35 plus a negative 12, a way that I can clean that up is just 35 minus 12. And then your final answer you're going to get is 23. So let's go through and we'll do a couple of these together, and then you'll try some on your own. So number 3, for example, this is one where, especially if you're going to be using Desmos to plug in, you definitely need your parentheses, because I'm going to go through, the reason being my m that I'm using to plug in is negative, and crazy stuff starts to happen with your answers if you don't put those parentheses in. So now if I go through and do that, if I do the order of operations, let's take care of this exponent first. Negative 2 squared. Again, think about what that means. It means negative 2 times negative 2, which is going to get you 4, plus, let's do this math out, 5 times negative 2, that's going to give me negative 10. Next, that'll bring me 16. I'll clean this up. Adding a negative number is the same thing as subtracting. And then you'll have 6. Okay, let's move on down here. Why don't you actually pause the video for a second and see if you can do numbers 5 and 7. So pause it right now and see if you can do those, and then I'll go over them when you come back. Okay, so you should be back, and let's go through, and everywhere that I see an A, I'm going to put a 3. Everywhere that I see a B, I'm going to put a 2. So inside these parentheses, it's saying I have A, B, which means that I'm multiplying them. So I'm going to say I've got 3 times 2 minus 4. Oops. I meant to put my 2 there. Times 2 cubed plus 1. And now I'll go through and do order of operations. So first thing I want to do, let me take care of the exponent that I've got over here. So this is still going to be 3 times 2 in my parentheses minus 4 times 8. I actually probably should have, if I'm actually following order of operations, I should have taken care of that parenthesis first. So let's do that. In parentheses here, 3 times 2 is going to give me 6. And now I can do this multiplication. That'll give me 32. And now I'm just doing an addition and subtraction. So that will give me 6 minus 32 is negative 26. Plus 1 will give me negative 25. Okay, you should have done number 7 as well, so let me do that one with you. In my parentheses, I have negative 4 minus 1, and that's squared, plus 2 times, we know v now is 1, and w is negative 4. So let me take care of the stuff inside the parentheses first. In the parentheses, I have negative 4 minus 1, so that's going to be negative 5 squared. And then I could, if you're okay with kind of doing your multiplication first and understanding what needs to go first and second, we can skip a couple steps here and do this multiplication. So I can do 2 times 1 will give me 2. I can do a negative 7 times a negative 4 is going to give me a positive 28. And now I got to get rid of that exponent. Negative 5 squared is going to give me a positive 25 plus 2 plus 28. And now that's just addition, which will give me 55. Okay, let's turn the page and we'll do a couple more together. Let's look at number 12. Number 12 is a little bit tricky. There's a lot more moving parts to it, but it is really not much different than, and it's not any different than the ones on the first page. There's just more stuff going on in it. So I'm going to go through, they have this big, long, ugly expression, and they told me that m equals 2 and n equals negative 9. So I will put those in using my parentheses. And when we were talking about order of operations, I told you guys to kind of think about each piece separately. So think about the numerator as one problem, think about the denominator as one problem, because then it's not so scary. And then once we take care of the numerator and denominator separately, then we can actually divide out and simplify if we have to, whatever. So let's do this first. Let's do the numerator. So 2 to the 4th, that's 2 times 2, which is 4, times 2 is 8, times 2 is 16. You can use decimals to do that. Minus 2 squared, which is 4, and I was multiplying that by n squared. So n was negative 9, so I'm multiplying that by 81. Okay, so that's taken care of. I'm gonna start working on the bottom too. So I'll do my 2 times 2, which is 4, minus 2 times negative 9 is going to give me a positive 18. So now that I've got that, in the top I still need to take care of some multiplication. So I need to do 4 times 81, which is going to give me 324 over 22. And now I can do that math out in the top. 16 minus 324 is negative 308. And I've got 22 as a denominator. And if I do that math out, first thing you always want to do, see if it actually simplifies. Do that division, negative 308 divided by 22. And it turns out it does. It's 14, negative 14. Okay, so why don't you pause the video one more time and see if you can get number 14. And then when you come back, well, I'll show you how to do this one again. So pause the video. Okay, should be back. I'll go ahead and plug in. Okay, so this one again, this one's a little ugly. We got a bunch of stuff going on. Let's start with doing the numerator. I'm going to get rid of those exponents. So 7 squared is 49 times 2 squared is 4. Let me get rid of some exponents in the bottom as well. So that's also going to give me 49 there. But then, in these parentheses, I got a bunch of stuff going on. They're saying I'm taking s cubed, which is 2 cubed, which is 8, and adding, we've got 35 in there for 5 times 7. So some of you might be trying to skip ahead and do extra steps in the same time, and that's fine if you can keep track of it, but don't do more than you have to at any given time. So now I'll clean this up a little bit more. 49 times 4 is 196 minus 22. 49 minus, let me do what's in that set of parentheses. That's 43. Let me scroll down a little so we have a little more room. 196 minus 22 is 174 over 49 minus 43, 6. And again, do that division out, see if it works. It does. It gives us an answer, 29. Okay. So what I want you to do now, hopefully these last two didn't scare you too much. I have left an activity for you called an expression scavenger hunt, and I've left some directions on how to actually do that. So you should be able to get that done in class, and then there is a homework assignment to go along with that as well.